Hell yeah.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Are we live?
We are live.
We're live.
What's up, fam?
Welcome, guys. We've had problems again, once again today with the internet. Then we had to reboot. So hopefully everything is going to be okay from here on out, man.
Yeah.
We're going to wait just a couple minutes for people to start rolling in.
Hell yeah.
Excuse me. Hope you guys had a great day today. This is our second day off, man. It's been a great day. It's been a hot day, man. Today it's been nasty here in Colorado, man. 92 degrees, 93 degrees, I guess. But it's still better than being on the East Coast and having all the humidity.
Oh, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was just me.
Yeah, man. So it's been a hot one. Looks like no rain in sight. And yeah, it's a good day. Been a kind of a lazy day as far as not being able to go out because it's just so freaking hot, man. Just hotness.
Oh, it's been horrible.
What's up, Carlos? I believe that's Carlos, right? If I can see correctly.
What's up, Carlos?
What up, Carlos? What's going on with you, man? What's
Happy
going
Wednesday.
on? Happy Wednesday to you. This is part 2 today, man, of What the Hell, God? Confessions of a Metalhead, man.
Hell yeah. Time for brown sugar to make some coffee. Would you like some coffee?
Yes, I would take some coffee, please, Mom. Thank you. We're going to have some coffee.
Absolutely.
And I have my cookie dough coffee creamer that I like to put in my coffee. Because I'm bougie like that.
You bougie like that.
I'm bougie.
You know what day it is? Yeah. It's Wednesday. Part 2 day.
Yeah, today is Wednesday. What's going on in Wednesday in your world, Carlos? I believe I'm casually, mildly low.
Oh, I'm casually mildly low.
Yeah, I can feel it kicking in.
Nothing super duper.
I can feel it.
Nothing super duper extra wow as of this moment.
Yeah, that's kind of how that one is, man.
You know, but that's okay.
It's okay, I guess, man. Yeah, so Carlos, hope you had a good day. Hold on, let me see it. Okay, Carlos is still at work.
Oh, what's up?
He's still working. We go
How
back.
much longer, Carlos? Or maybe you can't answer.
Yeah, how much? Yeah. Hopefully he doesn't have too much longer.
I hope not.
If he's East Coast, it's 7 something right now. Yeah,
almost.
Depending on where he's at.
Depending on where.
Hold on, we got. He's got 1 more hour to go. Man.
Hey, let's get you there. Right on.
Right on, man. 1 more hour to go. So here we go, man. You know what, Carlos? I know you're listening. I'm going to go ahead and... Should I go ahead and start, Mom, or should we wait a couple more minutes for more people?
If it makes you feel good to start, then by all means, go for it.
What does that mean? That means go ahead and start.
Yes.
I think that means go ahead and start.
Yes. If it makes you feel good to start. Okay,
yeah. So we left off yesterday. I was about to do something that would be a problem for me for the next few years after that. And I met this person that I worked with at a retail job that I was working at. And before I get into this story, I was thinking about this today. When yesterday I told you guys, excuse me, man, I'm still going through this stuff. Yesterday I told you about, oh man, see now I got myself off track, Mom. Where we at?
You were going to talk about making mistake.
Yeah. So retail job, yes.
Retail job.
So I had already decided after high school, after just leaving, man, and because I told you guys yesterday I hated school. So I knew the consequences of leaving school was going to be working manual labor, but that was the price, and I knew it, and I was okay with that because there was no way that I was going to try to go to any kind of further schooling. I just didn't. The education system, and as we learn now, means nothing, man. So uh, I knew I had to take these jobs, and so I started taking mainly grocery jobs. And I met this person, and we hit it off one day and decided to go out. And now where my family comes into this is my family thought I was like some kind of big drug addict, which I wasn't. I just like to smoke weed. That was my main thing, was just smoking weed, and I would do little things here and there. But I was never a quote unquote drug addict. But my family, like a lot of people's families, made me feel like I was a drug addict, man, because that's the way that they projected all their crap on me, man. And so I had zero self esteem, like I said yesterday. And my family meets this person, and it was 50-50 on my family. Some of them were like excuse me, some of them were okay, some of them weren't okay with it. But somehow down the road, within 6 months, I found myself engaged. And when I tell you that this was like a bad script to a bad movie, it was a bad script. And so everything about it was doomed from the very start. Uh, Everything was in reverse because parts of my family kind of pushed it, and my ex-wife kind of everything happened too fast. It happened way too fast. And it was no kind of traditional thing. It was basically weird. One day everything's normal. The next day I'm planning a wedding. And it was like that. It was weird. And I had even gotten dude. There was no ring. There was no nothing. And so the whole thing was it was just not. It was not cool, man. It was convoluted, man. And I just started up right away going, man, what am I doing? What am I doing? And like I said yesterday, at this point, uh, my whole God and Jesus thing was on hold, man. I didn't want anything to do with any kind of religion, any God, anything. I just was off doing my own thing, man, and trying to figure stuff out. And so right before I got married, this was maybe weeks before, something like that. I'm driving, and I had this overwhelming uh, voice within me, man, that just kept telling me, "Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, man." And people always go, "Oh well, it's just cold feet. You don't want to get, it's right to be nervous and scared and all that kind of stuff." But no, this was a real inner voice telling me, "Hey man, don't do this." Right? And I didn't listen. I didn't listen, and I didn't listen because of fear, and it was fear of what my family would say and what they would, all the crap I would have to listen to, man. Because that's how it always was. I was the black sheep of the family. I have always been the black sheep of the family. And so, yeah, next thing I know, I'm getting married at 25 years old, man. And I didn't even know who I was, man. I had no clue who I was at all as a person. Still dealing with my dad stuff, still trying to deal with his death, trying to figure out what's going on. And I was like, okay, well, maybe this marriage crap will help me. And that was the wrong way to go into it because it just got worse from there, man. And so here I am, 25 years old, and I'm married to this person that I know I shouldn't have married. And I knew from their perspective too, I felt like that she also didn't want to get married. It was weird, man. It was like a thing where it was like we were almost doing it just because we felt like that was the right thing to do, man. Right? And which was a horrible, horrible reason. And so that started a long time of problems, and it got to the point where we would just argue nonstop over whatever, man. We were living in apartments, then we lived with her family for a while. Lived in a basement. Um, it was one of those things where she, at her age, whichever was, I think she was 4 years older than me, so she would have been close to 30 or 30, and decided she's going back to school, man. So she goes back to school. First, she said it was just going to be, hey, it was like a bachelor's thing, man. That's all I'm going to do. And then after that, it became, no, I'm going to do my master's. So what happened was the marriage became just roommates. That's basically what it turned into, man. And at some point, and I think it was around like 90, probably 99, 98 or 99, I started shifting into a lot of this new music that was coming out at that time. And I'd worked at Guitar Center in 1998. So I was there with these young kids when Limp Bizkit and Korn and all these bands blew up, and it was going into that rap metal, rap rock stuff. And I'd been, like I said, I'd been out of church for a while. Didn't want anything to do with it. And then one of us, either myself or my ex-wife, we were talking about church, and maybe we should start going back to church and trying to fix our marriage and all that kind of stuff. So at that time, man, I had heard this band. We were talking in the car, and I heard this band on Howard Stern, and they were called POD, and I'd never heard of this band. And then I asked my coworkers at work the next day, and they're like, "Oh yeah, man, they're this new rap metal group that's coming out, man." And so I never thought. And the only thing I knew about rap and rock and metal was, growing up with Run DMC, and then when Public Enemy did the shit with Anthrax. So I didn't have a lot of dealings with listening to rap rock or rap metal, man. So this band comes out of nowhere for me, and they were a spiritual band, and they sounded really cool, and they had a good sound, and I really, really got into this band, dude. I really got into POD when they came out, the Southtown album, and that was another case of where, okay, I started listening to that music again, and then we started drifting towards church and getting back to church. Well, we didn't have a church to go to. Excuse me. So I said, well, let's go to my old church, that I grew up in. It's right, it's 10 minutes from where we were. So we went there, started going there. And I was always, again, just always into the music, man, and following these bands. And at that time, I didn't know anybody in the Christian metal scene at that time until POD came back in. And then I find out there's all these, just like the secular bands, like I said yesterday, with like for all your POD or all your Korn and Limp Bizkit bands, there was 10,000 underground Christian bands that sounded the same thing, man. Like they just could never be their own thing. They always had to copy what the secular world was doing. And so all these bands came out of nowhere, man. And I found myself getting back into Heaven's Metal, which was now had become an online magazine as well, and started getting back into that scene and finding new bands. And uh, but I was forcing myself, man. I was forcing myself to do this. I was forcing myself to go back to church. I didn't really want to go back to church, and I knew that it wasn't going to help my marriage. But I was like, yeah, what else? What else do I got to lose, man? So I went in this, thinking, okay, this will do me some good, man. And at some point, you know, I was helping the then youth pastor. I was helping him do stuff at church. He was really cool guy, man. Probably one of the coolest people I've ever met. And I started helping him with the youth group. And at that point, he, my marriage was still on the rocks, man. It was like one of those things where we would go to church, and then as soon as we got out of church, man, and away from people, we were just always yelling, fighting, all that kind of stupid stuff. So, in one sense, I was trying to get this thing to help me out and improve stuff, and it just wasn't working, man. But I liked this guy, and I liked helping the youth, and it was fun. And then he left, and I was asked by the pastor if I would be the interim youth pastor, believe it or not, until the new person came there. And so I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. I had no idea what I was going to do, man. So they had like little packets and things to talk about, and with the youth. And the youth group was a bunch of kids that were really cool, man. They were good kids. But when you're in an organized church, and especially a Baptist church at that, you have, just like everything else, you have politics, man. And I actually had a parent waiting for me outside the door from one of these meetings, because I let the thing run over 2 minutes late. And so then I would receive emails from people. Well, my daughter wants to help out, and she says you didn't let her help out, and that type of stuff, right? So I quickly figured out, hey, you know what, man? This shit is not for me, man. This is number one, I can't stand politics, never have, ever since I was a kid. Politics meant the president was coming on TV and was going to interrupt your TV shows. That's what that crap was to me as a kid. And I never liked it. Never liked it. Didn't like it. Didn't like religion. Didn't like politics. And I was getting back into the scene, getting back into the music part. But then the church part, man, I said, man, I can't do this anymore. These people, the parents, are just too much. It's too much politics. And so I stopped doing that, and they finally found a person to take over. And at this point, man, I was still just having issues about my dad, man, and I would never go back to any psychologist, psychiatrist, whichever one they were. Would never go back because of what had happened in the first office, where they just wanted to give me pills to get through this stuff. And I knew that was wrong for me. I didn't need that crap, right? I had to figure this stuff out. So at some point, man, it was just a bad marriage. Like I said, it had turned into a roommate situation type of thing. And I got to the point where I just couldn't take it anymore, man. I was like, I can't do this anymore, man. I've got to get out of this marriage because it's just too much, man. Just was never supposed to happen, man. It shouldn't have happened. And so Went through a nasty, nasty separation and a nasty divorce, and I came out of that, man. And the lesson that I took from that was that I would never let someone treat me the way they treated me the whole time I was in a relationship. I was like, that's the biggest lesson I took, is I will never let anyone talk to me like that again, or any kind of way. And so spiritually, I was just like, I had the best peace of my life, because I remember saying, looking up at the sky, this was before everything had happened. And I remember looking up at the sky and I said, I don't care, man, if you're real or if you're not real. I was like, I'm leaving this marriage, because everybody, let me preface that by, everybody in the church, oh, you can't get divorced and blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, I didn't have any of that stuff, man. I was like, no, I'm not having this crap. Right. So I looked at the sky and I said, I don't care if you're real or if you're not real, man. I was like, I will not stay in this marriage any longer, man, because I'm going to drive myself batshit crazy, man. Right. So as soon as I said that, man, I felt like 20 pounds of weights lifted off my shoulders, man. And I had the most peace, but which would only last for like a few hours, because then, like I said, it became a nasty thing of, you didn't do this, you didn't, yeah, the classic stuff. And so once I got out of that, hold on one second, guys, let me check in here. What up, Brian?
What's up, man? Let's see. Oh, hi, Glenda.
Oh, Glenda Penn, thank you, brother. Excuse me. Excuse me, guys. Man, this
all day.
these allergies, man, have just been has just been crazy. So yeah, so spiritually, my head was still spinning, because I was like, man, I couldn't, you start going through all these things. You go through uh, regrets and doubts and all these kind of things of what you shouldn't have done and should have done, and all this kind of stuff. And so I had peace about that, about ending the marriage, because it just wasn't worth it. But I still was in a weird place spiritually. And I was just in a weird place. And my sister had invited me to go with her to this church that she was going to. And it was a huge church in the area that we lived in. It's one of these mega churches. And I didn't really want to go to this thing, but I was like, you know what? Okay, fine, I'll go. She was being nice, and I said, yeah, I'll go with you. So we go to this church, and it's like being in a kind of like an arena, really, like a half of an arena, like half it was like arena seat, like almost like you're going into a concert. Big stage, big production, big band for their Sunday mornings and all that kind of stuff. Preacher guy was pretty cool. He was very popular in our area. He used to have radio ads on all these radio stations and stuff. And so we're sitting there in this church, and this pastor is basically giving this message that I had heard over and over and over. Just your basic Christianity message, about how Christ died on the cross for you and all that. So I'm sitting there listening to him, and I think he was reading from Romans, and he's doing all this stuff I'd heard a million times. And this was at the age I was 33, which, yeah, that was cool in and of itself right there. But I was 33 years old, and I was sitting there listening to this guy preach, and literally, it was like a light switch in my head clicked on, and I didn't say it out loud, but I remember it saying it to myself. And I remember just going, I don't believe in any of this shit. That's what I remember hearing in my head, man. I was like, I don't believe this shit. And of course, I didn't tell my sister. I didn't say anything. I was just sitting there, and I waited to get through the sermon, and so we could get out. And I just remember that was the day, man. That light switch flipped off in my head, and I go, I'm done. I'm done with. First of all, I'm done with church, which made no sense to me. And at this point, the churches were like nightclubs anyway, dude. There's like half naked chicks in the aisles and fog and lasers. It was like being at a concert, man. Right? It's like being at a concert. So it was like church is just a nightclub, man. I don't need to be in a nightclub to be able to commune with whatever, or if there's something out there. So when I got home, I remember I just said, okay, I'm done. I'm done with this shit. I don't want anything to do with God. I don't want anything to do with Jesus. Don't want anything to do with any kind of religion. And so it was like a week went by, and I still had this desire. I mean, now the one thing about me, dude, is like I've always been into things that can't be explained, and want to know things of why all these weird things happen and stuff, man. I've always been into the whatever paranormal stuff, whether I knew it or not. I liked all that stuff. And so when I got into church, one of the things that I got into was the whole future part of it, the revelation part of it, all the things happening in the prophecies and things like those were the things that used to, if anything, those were the things that I would gravitate towards. The reading the ancient prophecies and all this thing. I just always thought that stuff was cool. And so even when I left the church and I was still searching, I still didn't leave Christianity 100% because of the program. The programming is very good with these religions, man. You get told things over and over as a kid. It sticks in you, gets in your subconscious, and then you're stuck with these beliefs, man, that aren't even for you. So I still had these little malware things, I call them, in my head, man, right? That would pop up. Well, I better not go too far out of Christianity because, fire and brimstone, hell, and all that kind of shit. That's the shit you get programmed with. So I was like, you know what? Let me try. I'm just going to start going down different roads, man. And I would go to all these different kind of Christian sects that were, one. I don't even remember everything I went through, man. I think I went through this stuff with the Bereans, where I read a bunch of Berean books because they were like the hardcore Christians of their day. And they were supposed to be by the Bible, man. If the Bible said this, that's kind of how they led their stuff. And so I read that stuff for like maybe a few weeks or a month, man. And the one thing I never stopped doing though was searching. That's the thing, man. I never stopped searching. I never stopped seeking. I just got tired of what I had to grow up on, man, and what I grew up in, because none of it was making sense to me at all. None of this stuff made sense. So at some point, that's when I finally got done with Christianity, and I was like, you know what, man, I've had enough of the God stuff. Let me try the dark side. Let me try this Satanist shit, man. I grew up with God. I grew up with hearing all these things about God. and I was always told to stay away from the devil shit. And so, I'd already been listening to all my metal bands for years that talked about the devil and Satan and shit like that. That shit didn't bother me, man. So I was like, all right, well, let me try this Satan shit, right? Couldn't find nothing on the light side, so let me go to the dark side. So I, like any ignorant person who's not ignorant, but I just didn't know, man. I just went out to the bookstore. I was making good money at this time. I had a job where I was making really good money, and I would go out and buy books. I just started buying books, and I bought these books on Satanism. I bought the Satanic Bible. I bought all these books, man, that I thought you were supposed to check off. When you got into this type of stuff. So I started reading these books. I started reading the Satanic Bible, and I don't know how many days I was into this, and I just remember going, man, this is the same stupid shit that I just got out of. It's just everything's in reverse, and it's telling you to do the opposite of what you know what I mean? It was still a structured thing, man. It was still someone else's beliefs. It was still this thing telling me this was the way things were supposed to be, man. Live your life this way, right? And none of that shit, Matt. It didn't hit me, man. And I was just like, you know what? I'm done with all of this shit, man. I'm done with all of it. I want nothing to do with any kind of spiritual shit at all, man. And so this was around 2003, 2004. And I had gotten into, I was working for a security company at this place and making actually pretty decent money for this security company. And I wasn't getting into anything kind of spiritual at all. But beforehand, which I forgot to mention, my brother Josh and I, not my real brother, but he's like my brother. He was a little bit younger than me. He's like my little brother. And we had started a Christian metal radio show, internet radio show. We were on Rain Radio, rainradio.com at the time. And we had a show called Hairlacious Metal. I came up with the name Hairlacious Metal, just some goofy ass name, where we would play all the 80s Christian metal, and then we would throw in the new stuff as well. So we would play Striper, and then we would play a new band at that time that was like Demon Hunter or As I Lay Dying or any of these bands. We'd do the old and the new, old and the new. And it would be Josh and I doing this recording on my little 4-track that I had. And we would make this show. We would do our little skits, and then we would pick the bands we wanted to play. Obviously, we didn't have the music. We were just doing the speech part. And then I would take this cassette from my 4-track, and I would take the cassette, go to FedEx, and then I would same day or next day the cassette tape to my boss who was in Florida. And then he would take the tape of us and then sync it with the songs, because they had all the music there. So we had this show, and it was really good, man. This is in the old days of the message boards that were popping up, and they were real big, and people were listening to our show, and people were loving our show, man. It was cool, man. We were getting a little tiny little following. And so when we got to where I was telling you a few minutes ago, around 2004, 2005, when I just said, I'm done with this stuff, man. It got to the point where I just the bands weren't speaking to me like it was, and we really weren't going anywhere. And they were telling me at some point they were going to shut the station down, which it looked like at that time they were going to shut down, but thankfully they ended up staying together. And it was too late. Josh and I had already left, and we went to another radio station because we thought they were done. And then it was a miscommunication. He kind of got mad at us because we went to this other station, and the other station thing lasted like 2 shows. It just wasn't the same, man. We had a great run on the other thing, but it just didn't work. And I was getting bored with the scene again, man. It just wasn't that great. And then I saw this band, Lamb of God, who I'd never heard of, man. It was before the Ashes of the Wake album, the album before that. And I saw this band, man, and I flipped out over Lamb of God. I already knew who Slipknot was. I'd already been a Slipknot fan, so I was listening to all these different types of groups. But Lamb of God, once I saw this band and some of the other bands that started coming out, Shadows Fall, I told Josh, I said, "Hey, man, I'm gonna start a website, man. I'm gonna start a secular, non-Christian music site, and I'm gonna call it Metal Till Death." And I asked him, I said, "Hey, man, you want to help me do this?" And he was like, "Yeah, let's do this shit, man." So I decided what I was gonna do was abandon all the religious stuff and the Christian things, and I wasn't going to get into any of that. And then I was going to focus on these new bands that were coming out. It's like 2004. So around 2005, somewhere in 2005, I started Metal Till Death, and I had no previous experience in this stuff, man, at all. And I knew that I liked reading about the bands and figuring the stuff out about the bands and all the shit that went on behind the scenes. You know, Brian don't like that shit, but I like it. I think it's cool, man. But, so I wanted to do something like that, man, but I didn't know what to do. So at that time, I had just gotten the greatest job I had ever worked in my life, man. And I worked for this company. They were a contractor, and I can't say a whole lot, but it was a great job, man, to where I was making great money, and I had a great schedule. So this job that I was at gave me it provided what I wanted to do, man. I was making such great money, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to start this thing, man. But I didn't have, the thing was I had just didn't have this job very long. And so I had to catch up on bills and things like that. And I was like, I need to save up. I need a camera, man. So the very first thing, I didn't even have a camera. I had one of the old audio cassette recorders. And I knew about Jack's. Jack's was the club that was an hour from me. And this is where all the bands were coming. All the cool bands were coming to this place. And I knew there was no way, because I just started my website, I knew there was no way that I was going to get any big band interviews. I knew it, because I think this was before YouTube. And if YouTube had started, it was very, very, very small, right? And so the website thing was still the way to go. And I got this little microsec recorder, and I waited for the right show. So I don't even remember what that kind of sucks, and maybe I'll figure it out when I find my tapes. But I don't remember what the first show was, but I know it was a band that was like on tour with the big band that I wanted to go see. And so it was one of the lower bands, and I'm like, okay, there's my shot. Maybe the way in is to talk to these smaller bands first, and then that way possibly I could get on the guest list and then get in for the whole show. And I don't remember the band's name. I remember doing the interview. And I sent off my email to this band, told them what I was doing, and they said, yeah, okay, we got you, and we'll put a +1 on your thing. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, I didn't know. Remember, I had never done this. I had never done any of this stuff. So I was like, +1, man. What does this mean? So I found out all the stuff real quick, and I'm like, dude, I got in, man. I don't have to pay for this show. And I'm like, dude, I'm getting to see this whole show, and I didn't have to pay for it because I'm going to go talk to this fucking band, dude. And then I'm going to put the band up on my shit. And so after that first show was when I got hooked on this stuff, man. I'm like, wait a minute, dude. Now I can start going to see these shows at no cost. But the job that I had, what I would do is the bands that would give me the interview, I would buy either their shirts, their CDs, or whatever, keep that, and then I would buy the other bands. So I was just spending like all my money on merch for these bands. So I was like, okay, now I've got to get something bigger, man. I've got to get a camera. So my next step was this little Canon handheld thing, and Josh and I started doing interviews with these bands. I started just reaching out to any band that I thought was cool, and 9 times out of 10, I got the interview, and I never had to. I was always on the guest list, man, and then going on the tour buses and hanging out backstage. All these different things was really cool for me at this time. So one of the things that I did when I would interview these bands was I left it. Okay, so skipping back to the Christian thing for a second. Remember, I had said there was this band. There was a magazine called Heaven's Metal, and Doug Van Pelt, the editor, his thing, and this was really cool back in the day. He would interview all the bands of that were huge, all the metal bands back then, and he would do this interview. And then one of his questions would be, what do you think? He would throw them off. And it would be, the questions was, what do you think about Jesus Christ? And it would always throw people off, man, because these are metal dudes or whatever, man. And they're talking about all this stuff. And then all of a sudden it goes into the Jesus Christ thing, right? And then he would say, well, what do you think about his claims to be the way, the truth, and life? And it would always start off these conversations, man. I think Henry Rollins, he interviewed Henry Rollins, and Henry Rollins was about to beat his ass, I believe. Yeah, that was one of the funny ones, man. But I took that idea. I even emailed him and told him what I wanted to do. He gave me permission. I didn't have to get permission, but it was a respect thing. And so what I did in those interviews, in my early interviews, one of my questions was, does God have a place in heavy metal? Even though I wasn't into the Christianity at the time, I wasn't into anything, I always kept that question because I wanted the spiritual thing to always be a part of my life somehow. And I really wanted to get their perspective. I did want to I just didn't want to do it as hardcore as Doug was doing it, because that wasn't my thing. So it was a simple question: does God have a place in heavy metal? And most of the time I would get answers, and then a few times the people just wouldn't answer it, and I respected that. They didn't want to get into that shit. But at that time, I had kept that in my interview questions, man, just because you never knew what kind of answer you would get. You didn't know if you were going to get someone who was going to get mad and hostile, or you didn't know if it would turn into a long conversation. And so I kept that through the whole time when I was doing Metal Till Death. And each year I would start trying to get, bigger equipment, better things. And then I remember I saved up for this, the big Canon they called it the prosumer cameras, man. It was consumer and half pro, and it was kind of a big one. That's the thing that I use for the most of my interviews for Metal Till Death. And so I started, oh wow, now I got this big ass camera. Now I'm going to get all these interviews. And so all through that time, once I started Metal Till Death, I still there would be more Christian bands that would come out, Demon Hunter, As I Lay Dying, Under Oath, all these bands, but they weren't like the old school 80s bands. They weren't preaching. They didn't do any preaching. They didn't do any of that. They just came out and screamed, most of them. They didn't understand half the time what the hell these bands were saying. But I would, go back and forth with, okay, well, this band's pretty cool. They're not too much, they're not into preaching it so much. And so somewhere in that time zone, I believe it was like 2007, this thing just wouldn't leave me alone, man. And I'm like, I kept seeing more and more corruption from the church groups and all these, and not just the church groups, but the bands as well, man. And then somewhere while I was working, I had this idea, you know what? I need to start this documentary. And it was going to be on metal music, and it was going to be on Christian heavy metal mixed in with some of the other secular bands. And I was going to, at that time, I was going to be like, okay, well, let's look at the spiritual side of music from both angles, man, from the dark bands and then from the quote unquote light bands, the Christian bands. Hey, Mom, can you turn that light on? I think we need that light on, please. And so I started getting these ideas about, okay, well, I've got this camera now. Now I can start putting this story together. And it turned, yeah, it didn't. I don't think it's okay. So I started thinking about putting this thing together, and I would reach out to certain bands, and I would get good responses. And it was one of those things, for whatever reason, that one didn't pan out. So fast forward a couple years later, still doing Metal Till Death. Still now I'm going to like I'm getting to interview at Ozfest, Mayhem Fest. And it was just turning into some really, really cool things. And so at that point, I was like, you know what? I was at an angry point. There was an angry part where I was like, you know what? I want to expose all this crap, man. I want to expose these bands in Christianity that, I had met some of them before and knew, come on, man. So I was at a point where I was like, okay, I was going to do this whole series on Christian metal, Christian heavy metal. And even though I loved a lot of these bands and the music, a lot of them were still pissing me off because there was a lot of crap that came out with a lot of these bands over the years. And I'm like, wow, man, no one's perfect. But this was a thing of like, come on, dude, you're leading people down this wrong way, and you're making yourselves look bad. So I had this mission. I had a mission where I was like, okay, I'm going to expose this stuff, man. And after a little bit of time and thinking about it and going, now, why would I want to do that? Right? I know that there's bad stuff everywhere in every kind of field, right? And I'm like, why would I want to do something like that when that music itself, maybe not the message, but the music itself got me through a lot of crap, just like a lot of the secular music did, man. And I love a lot of these Christian metal bands, these classic Christian metal bands. I don't get down with the message anymore with the way that they mean it. But I like a lot of the music. A lot of the bands had some good talent. Not all of them, but there were some that had a lot of talent. And then I said, okay, so I won't do that, man. I said, so what I do want to do is I want to do like a history lesson on Christian heavy metal, but I want to show my life and what I went through with this music while I was listening to it, and the reason that I stayed with it for so long. And so, sometime around, it was around 2010. We were finding out that our job might not be. We didn't know if we were going to be picked back up. We were contractors. We didn't know if we were going to be picked back up. So I was still doing Metal Till Death, still doing the festivals, and at that time, around, I want to say this was like around 2009. I was completely out of religion, completely out of everything. And I had met a friend of mine who was I guess she was a medium, psychic medium that I'd known her for a while, man. And we had just turned into friends. And I called her one day, and I'd been down all these different roads, man, all these spiritual roads. And I told her, I said, you know what? I said, hold on, man, this sun is like getting stupid, guys. Hold on. Let's see if I can get out of here for a second. Yeah, there we go. So I told her, I said, look, I've been down all these different roads. This stuff is driving me crazy, man. There's only one road I haven't gone down, and that was aliens, UFO stuff, all kinds of. I've never gone down that road because growing up, and especially being in the church, you were always told not to get into that type of stuff. You know, that was the devil, that was demons, that was this, that was that. And so I called her on the phone. I was at work, and I said, hey, I got to ask you this question. And I said, don't laugh. I said, but are aliens real? And she started laughing. And I told her, I said, I told you not to laugh. She laughed, and she said, of course they're real. They've always been here. They've always been here. And, you know, for me, listening to that, man, I'm like, come on, dude. Like, this is good. This goes against everything that I was taught, everything that I believed. But I asked her because that was the last spiritual thing that I had to go, man, because I was about ready to give it up on everything, man. And so she told me to read this book called Bringers of the Dawn. And I had no idea what this thing was about. And she had never read it. She goes, this is what came into my head. She said, go find Bringers of the Dawn. Which was about to open up another whole crazy chapter of my life, man, which was gonna send me into a whole nother life, man. And hold on, let me stop here for a second. What we got right here?
Marcelo.
That's right, Marcelo.
One of the bands I really dig in this style is Trouble.
Yes, Trouble was a good band.
Which
Great
is
band.
Unique vocalist, the great one, Eric Wagner, and Petra, which had killer guitarist Bob Hart.
Yeah, Marcelo, that's cool, man. Yeah, Petra played a huge part of my growing up as well. Petra was, and is still one of my favorite groups. And I don't know if you know it, but John Schlitt, the singer, he's got his own documentary coming out, or it's already out, I think. Man. But Trouble was a great band, yeah. And Petra was probably, I found them when I was 14 or 15. And they went through like two singers. And yeah, always one of my favorite bands. I got to see them in 1990. It was 1990,
It was
man. I got to
1990.
see them, Knoxville, Tennessee. It was a great show, man. They were a great band. I didn't like the later stuff that they got into. It just got too poppy. But I like Petra. They were a great band. Mom, what time are we rolling up on right now? Where are we at?
Right now it is 6:04, so we've been on for about 55. Wait, 55?
Yeah, about 55.
55 minutes.
Yeah. All right. So, all right, we've been about an hour. Let's take a. We're going to take our first
Take a recess.
our first little intermission. We'll take a 10-minute intermission. It's really hot outside. The sun's coming. Hopefully
It's
this.
91 degrees.
Yeah, it's 91 degrees
at
here.
6 p.m.
Yeah, at 6 p.m. and on the mountain, it's 91 degrees, and the sun is literally, as you can see, beaming right through this window, man.
my face.
Yeah. So, all right. Yeah, we're gonna take a 10-minute intermission, and then we'll be back, and we'll continue, man.
Hell yeah, guys. Go do your thing. Use the restroom. Grab some drinkies. Grab some smokies. Grab some snackies.
Yeah.
We'll see you in about
We'll see you in
10
about
minutes.
10 minutes, guys.
Yeah, or less, but we'll be back.
All right. Peace out.
We just got this.
All right.
Gotcha.
Oh wow. Whoa.
Jesus is in your eye.
Oh wow. Yeah, this isn't gonna work, man. Hold on. All
What's
right,
up,
guys, we're back. But this isn't gonna work here somehow. We're gonna
Why
have
don't you
to
switch places here? Why don't you come on this side?
All right, yeah, let
I
me
think
make-
that might work. Let's see. I'll take the sunlight. What's up, guys? Let's see.
Yeah, that's better.
Mark, what's up?
Oh man, that sun is just like
I
come on.
was with my mom.
I got spots.
Who was in rehab after taking a bath. Oh, I'm sorry to hear
Who's that? Who's that?
Mark.
Mark's mom?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that,
Bubba.
brother. Very sorry to hear that. I hope she heals very, very quickly.
Is that a little better?
Can you hear us? Yeah, my eyes, dude. I just.
Oh, I
that
know.
sun-
Mine too. I'm seeing like
I can't.
blinky spots.
Yeah, all through my eyes, man.
I hope that she recovers soon. Speedy recovery. Lots
Yeah,
of
very,
love and
very speedy recovery.
healing energy
man.
out to your mom, man.
Yeah.
How are you? I hope you're having a good day. I hope everyone that's here is having a great day.
Yeah.
Awesome sauce. Hell yeah. So,
Where's Brian?
I think Brian's over there somewhere.
Brian, are you here, man?
Brother Brian. I'm gonna have to turn the oven on.
Yeah, I got it. Let's go. There we go. Brian,
Where
is that
were
Brian?
we? Yeah. Where were we?
Okay,
Where were we,
yeah.
Dad?
All right. So,
You were doing Metal Till Death?
yeah, we were doing Metal Till Death. Now, this was around before I get back into the Bringers of, we left off with the Bringers of the
Yes.
Dawn and the alien question. So,
That's right, aliens.
However, let me rewind a little bit because somewhere around 2006, maybe even 2005, man, I started getting into paranormal things, lots of paranormal. This is the one thing about my life, man. No matter how many roads I went down, in some way, shape, or form, it always had to have some kind of spiritual element to it, right? So at that time, for whatever reason, I met people and I started seeing things with like psychic people, and psychic medium people, and talking to the dead, and all these things that I was taught as a Christian that were taboo. And so I remember thinking, okay, I've already gone through that. I know that was bullshit for me. And so if they're so against it, this stuff must have some kind of validity to it. So I started getting into these psychics and Sylvia Brown and people like that, and who would later become a fraud and found out was a fraud. And so I started going down all these roads, man, all these roads of different types of spiritual stuff. And it was like I said, lots of psychic thing. That was my thing. Even so much at this time, I was 2 years into this job, greatest job I ever had money wise. Like money was just, I didn't have to worry about it. Right. So I found this psychic person, and let me stop there again and go back a little bit. Remember, I told you I was still trying to figure out stuff about my dad. So I didn't want to go to a psychiatrist or psychologist because they had already pissed me off the first time I went to them with just throwing pills at me, like I said earlier. So I'm like, nope, fuck it. I'll figure this shit out myself. That's what I do. I'll figure it out myself. So somewhere around 2005-ish, 6-ish, I had my first dream with my dad. Now, I'm a person who loves dreams, man. I like to analyze dreams. We like to talk about our dreams. I love it. I think it fascinates me. So I hadn't had any kind of dream with my dad since he had passed away, and I was 13, so that would have been 83. So no kind of dreams or anything since he had passed away. So this is like, I guess I'm somewhere 35 years old, somewhere around there when I have this dream, and it's a simple dream, man. I'm at this gas station, and there's an old truck, and there's a guy getting into the passenger side, and then here around the corner from the back of the truck comes my dad, and he's walking. And for those of you that weren't here for yesterday, my dad was handicapped. He was in a wheelchair. And he was in his classic white T-shirt that he used to like to wear. He had, half receding hairline. That's the gift he gave me, man. No hair. And so it was slicked back like he always liked it. He had his white shirt and his work pants, man. And he's coming around the truck, and he looks at me, grins at me, and gets in the truck and takes off, man. And I woke up. Now, to me, and to a lot of people, that's just, oh, well, that's just a dream. Yeah, but that was a powerful dream for me, man, right? And that dream is what set me off into psychic things. That I think was the thing that set me off getting into that world, was that dream with my dad, because I was like, I don't know anything about this, but can you communicate with people after they're dead? Man, I didn't know. Can you? Who knows? And so this job I was in had the money. I had the money to do this, man. I had money where I could just go and book a session with this lady, man. And the thing is like, if you're a skeptic, you'll never believe these things, But if you're open to things, and there's things that happen that only you would know about, you start to get heavier into these things. So I go to this medium, and this was the first one I went to. Was she wasn't kooky. I was gonna say hello from New Mexico. Hey, New Mexico. What's the screen name?
Victor Hill.
Victor Hill.
What's up?
Victor Hill. What's up, Victor Hill? Welcome.
What's up? You're joining us for stories.
Yeah, and what was I saying, man? I was saying
you were talking about how the dream with your dad had started getting you into like the psychic and the spirit world.
Correct. Thank you. So
badass band.
In all of this time, so around 2007. Okay, guys, when did MySpace kind of filter out and Facebook took over? Does anybody know what year like MySpace was kind of done and then Facebook started coming in? It was somewhere, I think, 2007 in there, I think. And MySpace was probably my favorite thing because it was always about music. It was always about music. But then everybody started jumping ship and going to this Facebook thing, right? So I didn't, like always, I resist that stuff until, somebody I know is on there, man, they want me to come on there. And then that's how they hook people like me back, right? So this whole time, man, after that dream with my dad, that's why I started searching. I started reading books. I started listening to tons of YouTube stuff, most of which I probably shouldn't have listened to. And you just start questioning. I was always questioning, and I'm one of these people that I just question things. and I'll question it to myself and just put it out into the universe, right? So I started going down. I got into all these different paranormal things and psychic things, and I eventually started getting into the alien thing, which I told you my friend had recommended this book called Bringers of the Dawn. Now this was like around 2009 that this happened. So I had already been on social media with Facebook for like 2 years, 2007, and I want to tell you that that's probably one of the worst decisions I ever did, was to, like many people, one of the worst things I think I did was get on Facebook. And I didn't like it from the beginning at all. And me not trusting things anyway, nothing in this system have I ever trusted since I was a kid, right? But you got friends on there, man, and then you throw music back into it, and you got bands coming out with their Facebook pages and things. And I'm like, oh fuck, man. Well, I guess I'll hang around with these bands, man, and whatever. And so at this time, I had already. I always hated politics, like I said, from what I've said in previous things. I've always hated politics. So when I saw, for me personally, there was an instance where I saw just like the veil pulled off for me, that politics was just, it was this, no matter who was in there, no matter who was it did not matter. It was a loop. We were getting the same thing over and over. And I'm starting to question this to people, and people, most people can't relate. Now at this day and age, yeah, people are starting to understand. But I was like, this, I don't understand why this has to play into everything, right? And so I'm at this job, and I'm one of these people who, like I said, I don't, it's not my thing. I don't get into politics. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to do any of this stuff, right? So, but I'm at this place where that takes place a lot. And so I had my my doubts about, in the beginning, about working around these people that were always talking this stuff, man, right? So I waited a little bit longer, and I was told about this book because I was still searching. Told about this Bringers of the Dawn book, 2009. I start reading this book. I'm outside at this place where I was at this job. I'm at this place, and I'm reading. And about 3 to 5 minutes into this book, I start seeing all this stuff in this book that were questions that I was asking to myself, universe, whatever. I never told people these questions. And I had one of my coworkers and I, who never liked each other in the beginning, he had to leave work for a while because he injured himself, and he came back, and he was like he was a different person. So him and I had to be in the same place at one time. And we got to talking about all the things that were going on back in 2007, 2008, whatever, because we were in a place where that stuff was talked about. So I go, hey man, this stuff is just crazy, and it's out of control, man. Right. And so we had started talking to each other and couldn't really figure out why we didn't really like each other. For whatever reason, we just did. But that all changed, man. We started having the same questions. We were sitting there talking and questioning about life on other planets. Is this all made up? Is it fake? Is any of the alien stuff real or is it fake? Are UFOs fake or whatever? So we started asking all these different questions. And when I started reading this book, the only way I can describe it is that it was like you're reading something that you left yourself, like breadcrumbs from another time. It's the only way I can describe it. Because your inside is going, oh shit, I know this, man. I remember this. I know this, right? But there's no way you can know this because this is your first life, man, supposedly, right? And so I called him up. He was in another place, and I said, hey, you're not going to believe what I just read in this book, man, because this thing dealt with what him and I had just been talking about a week previous. And so this book is the book that sent me into a whole nother world, man. Right. So this book spoke about these aliens from another star system, from the Pleiades star system. And supposedly this lady who wrote this book was channeling those beings through her and writing down all this stuff that they told her. And she put it in a book, and that was this book. Now, I'm reading this book, and a lot of this stuff for me is just pinging inside. Wow, man. This is wild. This sounds familiar, man. It's wild. And so my friend gets into it. He reads it. And then him and I start going down this road of looking for alien stuff. Right now, this is where we got into the wrong side of YouTube, man, at one point. We were on these sites that these were so-called alien messages. And these pages, this was on YouTube back in like 2007, 2008. No, 2009. And they were just recordings, and they were like these bad, what do you call them? Like the where they record your voice and the computer talks it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So the computer was, it's just random words that it kept messing up, and so it was always about how this is the funny part. So this was back in 2009, the reign of the Obama era. So that's when all these UFO things on YouTube were always talking about UFO disclosure and disclosures coming soon, and the so-called Illuminati is all going down, and everybody's being sent to Gitmo and all these places, man. And we're like, wait, what? And this was like, these were things on YouTube, man, that were all over, and from so-called beings, right? And so after a minute, we were like, hey, man, something's fishy with this, man, because this is the same stuff over and over, and nothing's ever happening, right? And so we stopped listening to this stuff, man, and we went down these roads, man. I went down, like I said, dude, I'm going to tell you, dude, still always searching. And so now I'm moving into this new age stuff that I didn't even realize I was moving into, man. I started getting into these stories and, people who were always channeling entities and aliens and shit, man. You know what I mean? I'm like, so I just kept looking for these things, man. And each time I would find something and I would start digging into this, man, I'd be like, nah, this ain't it, man. This doesn't, This doesn't make any sense, you know. And at that time, man, I started having around, you know, that time when I was having this spiritual awakening. I started having lots of dreams, man, lots of dreams, and I just would go down different roads, man, and all these different teachings and things that would come out of nowhere, and I was just like, man, it's never every one of these things that I always look into, man. It's just not. It's not. It's just not it, man. It's that whole U2 song, man. Still haven't found what I'm looking for, shit, man. Right? So, I saw a lot of stupid stuff, man. I watched a lot of stupid stuff, and this job that I had at the time for years, man, it allowed me to have a great lifestyle, man. You know, and I got to do a lot of stuff. I funded Metal Till Death, you know, from 2005 until almost the end of 2011. I funded myself. Went to all these festivals, interviewed all these bands, had some great times. And when I lost my job, it was on 11/11/11. I lost my job, and this was, like I said, man, this was like best paid job I ever had. And so I had to, yeah, man, I had to. We didn't get our contract, man, and we had to leave, man. And everybody was out of work. And so 2012, man, was a weird year for me, man. A weird year for the planet, and weird year for me. And I still was way into this alien stuff. I was still into reading these stories and these channelings from people, and you know, there was a lot of stuff out there, man, and a lot of stuff that people make up. And there's some things over the years I'm like, wow, that's interesting, man. You know, they're like little puzzle pieces. And so around somewhere in 2012, I did my last interview with for Metal Till Death, and it was weird. I've told Philip this story before, man, and Brian. I've told Brian this story. The metal scene, the underground metal scene, had become just flooded at that time, man. When I was, you know, I had this great job and I was doing Metal Till Death at the same time, and so I lost my job, but I still have one more interview in 2012, and it was with a band. I had one of their CDs, but it was a band that I just didn't really care about that much, man. I bought the CD, and it was okay. They were a cool band, but I was just like, I'm not really that much into them. So they were coming to this place, to Jack's, where I used to go, where I used to interview the bands, and the scene had gotten so overrun with so many bands, and it's sounding the same. I was sitting on the back of this tour bus, and it was a cool tour bus, man. It was a nice tour bus, and I was back in the lounge waiting, and dudes were out in the bus getting high or whatever. And I remember sitting there on the back of this bus, and I'm going, man, what the fuck am I doing here, man? Why am I here? I'm like, I don't want to see this band. I don't even want to interview this band. Why am I here? Right? And I think it was my last ditch effort, man, to hold on to what I had been doing, man, because I wanted to take it to the top. You know, I wanted to be up there, but it was all ego driven, man. It was all about ego. It was about, I wanted to be the TMZ of heavy metal, at one point. And I'm like, no, that's stupid, because then that turns the music into trash, man. So, but I wanted to get bigger. I wanted to do bigger things, man. And the scene at that time, like I said, was just, everything was just, it was just flooded with everything, man. Everything sounded the same. And I just got bored. And I shut down Metal Till Death. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do from here on out. But this stuff is over, man, because the bands had just gotten this convoluted, man. Everything was just the same. So I shut it down, man. And at this time, spiritually, I was still going down different roads, man, and always looking into different things. And at some point on Facebook, all these things started coming out, and you had all kinds of conspiracy stuff all over Facebook and all over YouTube. And at some point, man, you start watching some of this. Back then I was watching this stuff, and I was like, yeah, man, this stuff is crazy, dude. This stuff is really crazy, man, that there could be something like this, and then it's really happening, and you don't believe it because it's conspiracy stuff, man, right? Until you actually see things, man, until you actually know things aren't the way they're supposed to be, man, right? So you go, oh, okay, well, you can't really, back then you couldn't really go off on anything, man, because people just think you're crazy, man. Now, years later, it's 2026, and a lot of this stuff is, come full circle, man. And so in those years, man, from 2012 to 20, probably 14, I really just didn't do much of anything, man. Now, the scene had died off for me. And in that time, somewhere in that time, Mom, I don't remember, when did I start recording Balls Bluff?
When did you start recording Balls Bluff? I think that was like a 3-year thing. So.
Yeah, it was. But was it, I can't remember the year. Was it 2010
I want to say
to 13 or something?
I believe somewhere like that. Yeah, I think that's what you were saying.
Yeah, so it was like somewhere from like 2010 to 2013. I started filming at this bar called Balls Bluff that was in Leesburg, Virginia, 15 minutes from where I live. And I met the guy that put this show on. He put this show on every month, and it was called Monthly Metal. And he was booking these bands from around Loudoun County and Maryland and West Virginia and sometimes Pennsylvania. And every month, at the end of every month, was Monthly Metal. And so I said, hey, man, I want to do a documentary on the underground scene. Can I start filming the shows and interview the bands if they want? And he was like, yeah, man. So this went on for like 3 years, and I kept filming, and I interviewed these bands, and I wanted to put out a documentary at that time showcasing those bands and Balls Bluff as well. As a scene, we were trying to build a scene in Loudoun County, and it was starting to get really, really good. And so somewhere in there, the owner lost it. He couldn't afford to own it anymore. He owned several businesses, and he had to let that one go. So Balls Bluff, everything had to stop, man. It had to stop because he was selling the business, man. And so I had all this footage, man, and I'm like, okay, what am I going to do with this? You know, um, what am I going to do with this footage? I need to know if I'm going to make this into a real film, if I'm going to wait and do more bands. And so I had all these cassettes of interviews and band footage that I just had to put in storage. And going through different jobs again, after I lost my job from the one place, I was out of work for like a year or two, maybe a year, I guess, not two, about a year. Found a place, and I was working at this dog hotel, dog suite place. And that's where I met my boy, Willie. And Willie was the trouble dog of the place. When they would bring him in, Willie was a humper. So he was always humping dogs. So he always had to go outside. Well, I felt sorry for Willie, man. And he was always, because he just was a bit, he was always getting picked on, man. And he was a golden doodle, man. He was so cute. And so I came in there one night. I worked the overnight shift. And the dude said, "Oh, man, you're in for a surprise, man." He goes, "Willie got turned over to us, man." And I was like, "Willie, who's?" And I was like, "Oh, that's the golden doodle, man." And so I said, "You know what? I'm going to make friends with this dog, man. Because this dog, I think this dog's kind of cool." And so I would go in his cage every night, and he would just be like, "Arr, arr," and he'd stay over in the corner, man. He didn't like men, man. And every night I would go in and I would work with him, man. And one night I got enough courage to put the leash around his neck, and he followed me out. And I took him out to the little playground area. This was at night. I started talking to him, playing with him. He still wasn't having it. So one of the girls there said, "Hey, man, they want him. They don't want him to be here long. Why don't you ask if you can take him home and see what happens, right?" So I asked him. I said, "Hey, can I take him home? I want to see how he acts." So I took him home that weekend, and that was it, man. I said, "I want this dog. I want this dog." And so I went back, told him I want the dog. It took a couple weeks because they wanted to make sure the owner wasn't going to come back. And the owner said, "No, we're not taking the dog." So they signed Willie over to me, and that became the start of the dynamic duo, man. Me and this dog were stuck together like glue, man, from that point on, man. And this dog, and I had lost my Springer years before. His name was Fenway, and that really, really, really beat me up for a while, man. And so when Willie came, man, he was my new sidekick, man. And so those were the years from 13 to 15. Those were the Facebook years that were dark, man. And so I would just get on there and just rant about crap and how bad, everything sucks and this and that. Just being ridiculous, man. Just, making short videos of just trying to be funny and angry at the same time. And, whatever. It was, I should have never been on there, but whatever, man. It is what it is. I did it. And so somewhere in 2015, man, but from 13 on, man, me and my friend that I told you about earlier, him and I, man, we just started having more and more weird experiences, man. And we were always having massive talks on the phone on our days off about why we're here, the spiritual stuff, right? The alien stuff, and going this, even further than that. We were having all these fringe conversations. And the whole time I'm still trying in my mind going, okay, I want to make this documentary on the history of Christian heavy metal, man, so I can get it out of my system, man, so I can tell my story and be done with it, because I wanted people to see that this Christian heavy metal back in the day, there were some bands that were actually great bands. And then there was a lot of mediocre stuff. But there were bands that had real musicianship, and they made great songs. It's just nobody wanted to hear them because it was a overtly Christian message, man. And I understand that. I get that part. But there were bands that spoke to me musically. Barren Cross was one of them. Barren Cross, Vengeance Rising. These bands were the heavier bands, and their music really spoke to me, man. And I really got into that type of the heavier stuff. It was the sound. Those bands were the soundtrack of my life. Barren Cross was the band that I went over a mountain. I had a car crash when I was 19 years old, man. Right? Go over a mountain. We go over a mountain in a little Isuzu I-Mark car, man. 5 of us. We went down a mountain, 180 feet, flipped 3 times, landed upside down, man. It's pouring down rain, man. We're on a mountain. The car is upside down. It's a massive storm, and this Barren Cross tape is just blasting because we're in a valley, man. We're down in the middle of a valley. This is in the southwest part of Virginia, man. It's mountains. And we were coming back from a football game. We were in high school, man. And my friend was driving stupid. He couldn't see. The fog kind of lifted from the road, and we were about to, as soon as he hit the brakes locked up. We went off this mountain, man. And as we're going down this mountain, man, I'm not making this up. As we're going down the mountain, the tape and the music are still playing through the whole fucking wreck, man. We land upside down. The tape is still playing, man, blasting at the like on the. It was just huge, and this music was going through the valley, dude, while we're climbing out of the car because we're upside down, 5 of us in this little tiny car, right? And you're thinking it's like the movies. Oh my God, we got to get out. The car's gonna blow. The car's gonna blow. And that's exactly what happened, man. We were all scurrying out. My hand went through the windshield, so I've got glass and blood dripping all down. Dude that was driving, his face got beat up against the wheel. I don't know how many times. His lips were like out to here, bloody nose. One dude got thrown out from the hatchback somehow. So we're flipping the fuck out, man, and climbing up this mountain. It's raining. It's muddy. You're sliding back down. You have to climb back up. We look like we're out of Fangoria magazine, man. All of us are bloody. And that fucking tape is still blasting, man. Blasting music through this whole thing. And I just remember, dude, I remember standing on this road in the pouring rain, bleeding, just being in that wreck. And I go, man, that tape is still going, dude. That band is still playing, dude. And I got the cool thing about that, and maybe one day you guys will get to see this, but I interviewed the bass player of Barren Cross, Jim Laverde, and this guy named Pastor Bob Beeman from Sanctuary Church. I got to interview them, and I told him that story, man. I got to tell him that story. And what I should have done was written Isuzu and told them, yo, man, your stereos back then were awesome, man. You know, we went through this big crash, and this cassette's still playing, man. The radio never busted up, man. So there were those bands like that got me through all kinds of things, man. They were like the soundtrack to my life, man. It was just one of these scenes where people, unless you were in it, you didn't really know about it, you know, unless you were into that music. And so I went from hating the scene and wanting to expose it to, okay, now I just kind of want to do a tribute to it, but I want to tell my version of it as well and tell what I went through. And so the point of this was to make like a history of it and to show how and what it meant to me at that time, man. And because the bands were there, the music and the songs were there, because at that time in my life I couldn't connect with the Bible, man. I couldn't just sit down and read the Bible. I couldn't. It just, when I started reading it, it didn't connect. And that's just all I could say. So I would just listen to Bible things through these songs, man. But it was always more for me about the playing, the musicianship, and these were, like I said, there were some really cool bands, and I wanted to do this history thing, right? So in 2015, I had started a YouTube channel, and I didn't know anything hardly at all about YouTube, man. Other than we had started one earlier when we were doing Metal Till Death. Josh had set one up for us, and so I hadn't been on it in years, and I was trying to come up with names, and I couldn't think of any names. And then all of a sudden, it was like, somebody was talking about brutal metal, and all these brutal terms kept coming up, and I'm like, okay. I was like, all right, brutality films, man, because at that time, I decided at that time, hey, man, I've already got a camera. I've got a pretty cool camera. Now I just want to do films, man. I want to do little tiny indie stuff, man, little indie films. So while I was, rewind real quick, while I was in that job that was paying me real well, I said, hey, man, maybe I'll go to fucking film school, right? Now, dude, I was 40 years old, man. At that time, I was 40 years old, right? Working a full-time job. And then somehow I thought, well, if I go to school, it's no big school, man. See, this is the thing that flipped me out. I've told you through this whole thing, I hated school, man. And I do hate school. But this was something different. I'm like, no, I just want to go learn about how to make documentaries. That's all I wanted, right? So I go to this school that's famous for this type of stuff. And I this is where I should have stopped it. But me, like a lot of people, you don't stop sometimes. So I go to fill out the application. At that time, they were like, no, sorry, we can't get you in with this. They wanted me to sign some kind of, loan. They wanted to do a loan type of thing, man, right? And that's where I should have said no, man. But I didn't say no because I want to make these films, man. Now, hindsight, what I should have done, life lesson, what I should have done was I should have went to the local community college that was near my house and decided to take classes solely for documentary making because they had those there. But no, I wanted to be, I want the best to teach me, right? All right. So then I get there and I find out, because I'm ignorant with a lot of this stuff. So I get there and I find out, oh, well, this is school, man. I thought I was just going to go and learn how to film, be a filmmaker. No. So then I get my, what is it? What do they call syllabus? Is that what they were called?
I guess.
So I can't remember. Shit with all your stuff on it, right?
Curriculum.
Okay. But there was syllabus too, man, that we had to do. Anyway, we get this stuff, and I see Art 101. Art 101. Now, I love art. I love looking at art, but I can't draw stick people. Okay. So first of all, when I saw Art 101, I'm like, no, this got to be a mistake. I can't draw. Right. So yeah, it was an art class. Then I had a computer class, some introduction to computer on a Mac. They were using Macs. I didn't know anything about Macs. I never had a Mac at that time. Fuck, man, what am I doing, man? Then I had some kind of what the hell was the other class, man?
Did you have some kind of like English courses or something?
Some kind of dumb thing like
writing or something.
Maybe writing or some
Yeah.
kind of thing like that. And then there was my film class, right? I saw the film class and I'm like, oh, okay, there's my thing. Now, why am I having to take all these other things? So then I found out, well, I shouldn't have taken this thing because, man, they were preparing you literally for Hollywood and that type of thing. I was 40 years old. I'm in these classes with 18 and 19-year-old people, man. And there was like maybe people my age every once in a while in one of these classes, man. So I'm 40 years old, man. And I'm like, what am I doing, man? What am I doing? I just wanted to learn how to make films, man. Now I've got to do drawing. I can't draw. Now I got to get on this Mac thing, man. I've never worked a Mac thing, right?
Yo, Mac dang.
So the only thing I had was this film stuff, man, and that was the only thing I was looking forward to. And I got in there and I had a great idea for this little. We had to do a 3-minute black and white film, and we had to pitch it to the class. That was the assignment. We had to pitch this to the class. And you had to do what they call the elevator pitch, which in the film stuff was like, you have just enough time to pitch your thing to somebody on the elevator, right? And then you're done. So it's like, 30 seconds? I don't know, something like that. And so we get there, man, and, I was working, I told you, man, I was working 40 hours. And I just flat out just forgot, right? So I get to class and they're like, fuck, man, we got to do this pitch. And I'm like, oh, shit, man. So I literally had to make something up on the top of my head, dude. Now, look, man, I had to make up this thing really, really quick. Thankfully, he had picked like two people ahead of me before he picked me. So I'm sitting there trying to come up with this concept. And I kind of had already had it a little bit of it the night before, but it was just an idea. And it had to be in black. We had to shoot these in black and white. And so for me, it took like 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And I came up with this concept about a serial killer janitor. And the thing about it was supposed to be, I think we had to make it a silent film, that first one. And so I get up there, man, he called me, I get up there and somehow I pulled this out of the sky and just made this pitch and everybody was laughing and intrigued in it. And, here I am, everybody's clapping after I'm done. I'm like, wow, man, what the fuck, dude? Hey, man, I did something that people clap for. What the fuck, right? So the teacher was smiling. And so after the class was done, he was like, dude, he goes, that was awesome. He goes, that's why. He goes, I can't wait to see it. And he's like, if you need my help, I'll be in it. And I was like, fuck yeah, man, hell yeah. So I thought right then and there, being my delusions of grandeur at that time, I believed like, hey, man, I'm gonna make this film, and this is gonna set something in me off, and I'm gonna just do this, man. I'm gonna make it through this school, man. Well, that lasted about a week, man, because with trying to do work and do metal till death, and then now go to school, I had found myself in a position like, man, this ain't for me, man. I can't do this. So I lasted in this school for about 6 months, man, and I just said I can't do this, man. Bummed my film teacher out because he was looking forward to doing stuff, but I was like, man, I can't do this, man. And so somewhere around 2015, I figured out, okay, I'm going to call this thing Brutality Films, and I'm just going to do documentaries, and they'll be independent documentaries. And I want to do my first one on this history of Christian heavy metal, and where I would just tell the history of it and tell my story of it at the same time. So one of the first trips I made was I reached out to this guy named Pastor Bob Beeman, who was the heavy metal preacher who ran Sanctuary Church out in California. And it was a heavy metal church, and all the Christian metal bands played there and all kinds of stuff. And he was always, Pastor Bob always had a message in any kind of cassette you would buy from these bands that were on one of the labels that he was associated with. So he was in Nashville, and I saw his stuff on YouTube, found out he was in Nashville. And I reached out to him and told him who I was. And I told him, I was like, hey, man, I'm not into this like I was before. I laid everything out on the table. So, everything was out in the open. I said, I love Sanctuary. I love you, man. I love all this stuff. I just want to come out and talk to you. So he agreed to it, man. And my nephew, Steven, and I, rest in peace, we took off to Nashville from Virginia, because I was like, oh man, we don't have to fly, dude. We can just drive, man. Because, we were used to driving to Tennessee because that's where our family was. Our grandparents were in Tennessee, and we knew we could drive from there to Knoxville. And we knew that from Knoxville, it was just another 4 hours or 3.5, 4 hours or something like that. I was like, yeah, we could do this. So the day we get out to go film, they agree, and Jim Laverde, the bass player for Barren Cross, agreed to do it. And, he had lived around the corner from Pastor Bob, man. So we were going to get both of them interviewed at the same time, which is really cool. So Steven wanted to go with me, man. He listened to some of the bands I had back then, and he was into Striper and all that stuff when he was a kid, just like I was. So he wanted to go, and he helped me. And from the time we left Virginia, we left at like 5 o'clock in the morning, something like that, 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And we left Virginia, and it was raining from the time we left Virginia till the time we got to Nashville, man. It rained the whole way, man. We were in rain the whole 12 whatever hours we were on the road, or whatever. And so we go to interview the next day. We go to interview Pastor Bob and Jim Laverde at Pastor Bob's place, and I'm like, okay, man, this is the first interview, dude. I'm getting excited because this thing's starting to come together, man. It's starting to move. And so we get there, and we had a great time, man. And Jim Laverde was a sound and lighting engineer guy, man. So he was helping us get all the noises canceled out and getting everything set up. It was just a really great time, man. And I got to hear a lot of cool stories, and got to share my story with them about, having the car crash with the song going. And so I walked away from there feeling really good, man, for doing this, man. And I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to do from here on out, man. This is what I'm going to do. But for my life, how it's worked out a lot of times is that every time I start to do something new or a big thing, there's always that thing right there, man, waiting to be a fucking pain in the ass. Something comes up, man. And that's why I'm finding out right now, even more than ever, making plans is a no-no, man. It just is, dude. Every time you make plans, something's always gonna thwart it, man, or try to anyway. So I was like, okay, man, this is where I'm at, man. This is my calling, man. I'm gonna make this. I'm gonna stick to this, man. And that's where we're gonna end this one for today, man.
Hell yeah.
That's where we're gonna end this one for today. Yeah. How you guys liking this so far, man? Are you guys still here? Is anybody here? Is anybody still in the
Is
chat?
anybody out there?
Yeah. Anybody still here? Anyone? Bueller. Bueller.
Well, it says that there are people out
I know, but the thing's not moving. Check. Yeah, it's checking.
That's
it's
wrong.
checking. Yeah. Yeah. So that's going to be where we stop it tonight.
Mhm.
And then we will pick it up.
Oh, awesome. You guys are still here. I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. It's such a great story.
Yeah, right on, man. Cool. That's cool. So yeah, what we'll do is we will continue next Tuesday.
Oh,
Next Tuesday will be episode 3 live.
episode.
And we'll do a little recap next week, and then we'll start off part 3, man. So yeah, I'm glad you guys are liking it, man. Yeah, I'm glad I'm finally getting to
I'm glad you are too. It's a great story. Mark said, "I'm looking forward to the rest of the story."
yeah, right on, Mark. Right on, dude.
I'm happy.
The ending should be next Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on how we do it, man. But yeah, I'm glad you guys. I'm glad you guys are hanging out, man. I'm glad you guys are listening and listening to my story, man. You know, I appreciate you.
Yes, we love you guys. Thank you for hanging out with us and listening to the story. I think it's a good one. Peace and love to you.
Carl said, "You gonna make me wait that long, man?" I said, "Yeah, man. Yeah. Unfortunately, we
80s style. You gotta wait till next week.
yeah. This is the to be continued.
The cliffhanger.
The cliffhanger, man. Yeah, dude. I'm glad you guys are liking it, and I'm glad that I can finally get to tell people about it because, you know, it's Carlos. You know, you've been involved in. You grew up in a family that was into religion and church, and you know how it can be, man, and you know how things in this life are weird with that stuff, man. But I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. I appreciate
Love you too, Papa.
Yeah, man. All right, guys. So look, it's time. We're gonna go eat some dinner and have a good night. And again, thank you guys for listening to me. I hope you really enjoy it. And I'm really glad that those of you show up and hang out with me, man. I appreciate you all, man. So we will see you very soon, man. Love you guys.
Yes, have a great rest of your week. Have a great weekend. We will see you back here Tuesday night at 5 p.m.
Next Tuesday at 5, and we'll put it out so to remind you guys.
7
man.
p.m. Eastern. That's 4 p.m. Pacific.
That's right, man. All right, guys. We will see you soon.
Love you guys.
Peace out.
Deuces.